So what I'd like to do today is just kind of take you through some of the maybe unknown features and potentially advanced functions that XL Docs can offer. But more importantly, also, it's sort of our soft launch of our XL Docs configurator. So I want to utilize our configuration tool to build out templates today and explain obviously some of the options that I kind of wanted to convey today. But you know, we're gonna make this available. It's going to be, I'll show you where you can get to install it in your app if you're using XL Docs. And obviously if you're not using XL Docs, then please feel free to inquire and we can get you set up. So what I'd like to do, I'm in our XL Docs demo app right now, and I just navigated over to our document templates table. And so I'm just going to create a new document template and show you the configurator. Now, this will be available also in the Juice Cloud if you're familiar with the Juice Cloud to have installed inside your application. So, and if you already have XL Docs, we're going to give you the option to have it install the configurator inside what your existing instance of XL Docs. So that'll be available on the cloud. It's just not available yet, but very soon. But there, again, our help site will instruct you on how to get it set up right now if you need it. And also, I just wanted to mention, I'm going to take you through the configurator, the new XL Docs configurator, but Dylan had done a great job sort of laying a lot of the groundwork on March 8th. So that office hours video has a lot of good content on all the, you know, the underworkings and of XL Docs configurator, and sort of gives you a great baseline. So today I'll just kind of take you through more of that and show you again the advanced options of XL Docs and how to configure that inside the configurator. So let me set up. I'm going to create a template right now, and it's going to be I'm going to create a timesheet, a weekly timesheet, and I'll show you that template, and we'll use the configurator to build it out. Okay, so we're just going to do, I'm just going to say just name a document template, weekly timesheet. And that's all I have to do for now, just to get a record set up, right? So what we'll do is why don't I just slide the template. This is my template, okay? And I color coded sort of some of the areas that I want to include, that I want to use the configurator to include on my template, right? So project name and location, start date and end date, a bunch of dates here, indicating the time entries for the week. So, and then there's these line items of standard time. So the ST is, you know, who was working on projects, and and how much time did they spend, say, and that's considered standard. And then time and a half, you know, maybe we have people working a little extra overtime, and then double time. So where they would classify their hours as double time. So that's the template. And it's, like I said, I'm going to show you how we're going to fill these locations using the configurator, and obviously then fill the grid. So let's go back to the configurator. And let me pull it up. And here's where so it's going to be invoked right from the document templates table. So I'm just going to click and pop it up. Now we're at the master record, if you will. So this is the main where you'll come in to start the configurator. And we're actually going to choose the projects table. So that's the record I was on. If we go back to, I'm actually going from our demo record, that if we go to the actual, if I click inside my demo, it brings us to a test record right away. And so it's a project number 7. I created this tab called office hours. So I'm on my project record. And so that's where we're going to build the timesheet from. All right, I'm going to click a button from the project record to generate the timesheet. So let's do, so we selected from a list of tables inside my app, right? And I'm choosing the projects table. The name of the template is a weekly timesheet, and we're going to start placing data on sheet 1, which I showed just before with all the color coding. So, and then now I'm going to just kind of, in the interest of time, I mapped out what I wanted to plot and where it goes, but some of the functions which are pretty cool. Let me say this: inside the configurator, you can sort by the column heads. So, you know, ascending, descending, right, by field name, etc. Right, so I can find my fields pretty easily. We also have, you know, you can configure the type of field it is. Obviously, it's going to be defaulted to what is in Quickbase, but if you needed to sort of manipulate it, there may be times when you need to do that. You can change the type here. Now I'm going to just put my cell locations, right? So I have my project manager field, or my project name. That was the first, that was at the top of the template. So project name is going to go in E3. And all I'm doing is just popping my cell locations in here in this column, right? So the project record, a weekly, the timesheet, I showed you the Excel sheet, which is right here, right? I'm just going to start configuring where the cell locations, what data goes where. So that's the project name.
And Todd, while you're doing that, there is a question from Laura in the chat, whether it be for you or Dylan, I don't know, but are you going to offer a search for larger tables?
Good question. So that I thought about that also. Dylan,
Hey,
can
Todd,
we? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just Control F on that and see if it finds it?
Yeah, but I'm not so sure that's going to be the right way to do that. Let's see.
I mean, I think that's how we do with the EFP configurator.
Okay, so it does work. Dylan, I don't know if you want to chime in as to this would be the best way to do it, or will we have some at the grid
as
level?
of right now, this is the best way to do it.
As of right now, right.
I can play around with adding a proper search, but
right.
We'll have to.
Yeah, that's a great comment. That's a great point, Laura. Thank you very much for that. So, so project manager is B55. I'm just going to plot some of my locations. Let's see. I have dates, my start date going in. Okay, so start date actually has 2 locations, right? So if I pull my sheet over, right, I have start date here, and it's calling for it on the bottom. I'll see. It's calling for it also inside the grid. So here and here, and so I'm going to to configure both of those locations, I'm going to put E6, comma C10. So that's how you can sort of plot the same field in multiple different locations on the sheet. So that's that. Project manager we got. So, and the cool thing too that Dylan implemented, if I save changes, I can see what I've already configured at the top. Everything sort of comes in order by cell location. Project, let's see what else I need. Sorry, this is going to take a little bit for me to do here. Let's just look a couple fields. Let's sort by, okay. Okay, so these are all the actual dates that will go on the sheet as well. So day 2 is D10. This is E10, F10, G10, H10. And save that. All right. I think I got everything I need. Let's see. All right. So now, so what I'll do now is I'll just, so that's how we want to configure our first tab, right? With those locations. And then what I'll do now is, why don't I just take a look at it, and we'll see what we have. So let's let me add, so this is my record on the table that I just configured. I just can use the configurator for. I'm going to pop a template on the I think this is the template I want. I pop a template on the record now, right? So this is the actual template that I just showed you in Excel. And now we have it's record ID 48. So if we go to the first option here, this is where I'm going to be clicking my button to generate the document. I'm going to pop in record ID 48. Okay, so now we're going to just save that. So now I'm going to just run that template. It's not complete, but it's going to show us a little bit about where we are so far. So, so here it is. Oops. So here's my template, and here's those. Here is the information that I popped in, just using the configurator. These are all those, the dates, the day 1, day 2, day 3. I'm missing day 7 here, and then my estimated start date and my end date looks like I'm missing. And then, okay, and then I have a name down here, my project manager name. So I could easily just go back and find them.
Now, Todd, you don't have to use the configurator if you don't want to, right? If you just wanted to, like, because you know you missed Sunday, you can just edit the C list directly here and just type in .h10:50.
Exactly, right. You can definitely do that. So I could actually go in here and just type in dot notation, and which is the old fashioned way of doing it, right?
Yeah,
That's
well,
how.
I think the question we had gotten was when we published out that we were doing a configurator, the question I did get from somebody said, well, does that mean I can't still go in and edit things the way I always edited them? And the answer is no, you can still, just like Exapforms Plus, you can still manually do some of these things without the configurator, but the configurator just makes it a lot easier.
Exactly.
Typing that out and forgetting a dot, forgetting a colon, putting a comma in instead of a dot. So this is a tremendous help from that standpoint, just by populating the master data. Right.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So we didn't want to upset what's already there, and sort of legacy templates and configurations are all will be supported. So that's not a problem. So those are a couple fields I was missing for the configurator. And so now so what we'll do now is, I'm going to run it again, just take a look. Now we have some of the information plotted that we needed on the template, but now I need some timesheet data itself, right? So I got my dates, etc., and my name. So that looks good. But now I want to start. So that was good. That was my project related record, but now I need timesheet related data. So what we do is we're going to add another configuration. We're going to add a configuration, a different type of configuration in the configurator. So here again, the master, and everything is, all my fields are listed here. But now I'm going to go over to the data tables. And this is where I'm going to configure a subtable, which is really going to be a query to pull back the details, the actual timesheet data. So I'm going to say add new subtable, and it will actually now allow me to choose a table. And I'm going to choose my related table, which is called project employees, because I sum up all the timesheet rows from an actual timesheet details table to a project employees table. So all those hours are here. So then we're going to say, okay, we're going to say, put it on the same sheet, sheet number 1. And now let's configure some hours. We're going to get the regular hours, time entries to come out on the spreadsheet. All right, so we're going to put, so here's my spreadsheet, right? We're going to put a name in this box, which is merged, right? So we're going to start putting a name here in A12, and then we're going to put some data on the standard time on this row here, which starts in C12. and goes across, the name will be in A12 for the sheet. So the name goes A12. And then let's take our regular hours, and they're going to start in C12. So we're going to do regular hours for day 1, day 2, and day 3, and just keep going down here. So F12. Okay, so now I'm going to save that. So those are the fields I want for my query, my related table of details for my data table. So those are my fields. And then I have more options when we define a grid of data, right? So, and here's one of the, so obviously images, if we were going to use images, that tab is there to embed them. We're not going to do that in this example, but the data grid options say, okay, is this going to be a data table? And by default it's on. So yes, we're gonna keep it as a data table. We're gonna just pull all the details and let it run down this spreadsheet. All right, and then we're gonna set up a query. Now, the cool thing that Dylan built in here is that, you know, if the table's related, it kind of knows that, and it will automatically bring that relationship in. So if you're noticing here also, this is our embedded query builder, which we actually had a webinar office hours on as well some time ago, but all this functionality would work the same. So you can get very complex with the query in this area. So that's good. So we don't really need to do anything here. And literally we're good with this configuration. So if I close it, it lines up here. So again, the master tab has all my standard locations that I'm plotting data into as far as the template's concerned, which I just showed you. But you know, now I have this data table of hours. Okay, and it's regular hours. I'm just going to show the standard hours going right down the spreadsheet. So now if we run it, okay, so, and actually I listed out a little table here to kind of reference the fact that we're just showing regular time, and this is the sort of what should get plotted inside the spreadsheet. So if I click the button to generate the document, okay, so now I'm gonna bring this over. So it looks interesting, but it's not exactly what I wanted, because the data for standard time is now just running down the page into my time and a half and my double time, and this doesn't look right because it's just sort of populating straight down the page, right? And it's listing employees on the left, and I think it's overriding a bunch of names as well. So it's not really functioning the way it should, right? And so that leads me to what I wanted to explain as far as one of the options in the configurator is called skip rows. So if we go back to this query that we built just before, there's an option called skip rows, and that is on the data grid, right? So there's a bunch of options, and this is certainly all listed in the help, but I'm going to take advantage of skip rows. And I want to skip two. I want to plot. So here's my template, right? I want to plot standard time, and then come here to do standard time for the next employee, standard time, standard time. So go straight down the spreadsheet, row listing every third row with time. All right. So if we just set the skip rows to 2, which is again one of the things I wanted to explain today as part of this this webinar. All right, so let's go back to running the spreadsheet again. Okay. All right, so now it's looking better, right? So now I'm getting all my employees and their standard time listed in the right locations, and then I'm not stepping on other employee records, etc. So it's going down, it's looking much better and it's skipping every two rows, skipping 2 and plotting, right? So that's good. So now that look, I'm getting much better with this template. So now what I want to do is I would like to, let me just close that. So what I'd like to do now is add in my other sets of data, right? So we have regular hours, but I want to do time and a half, and I want to do double time. So we added a function, a copy function. So if we just say copy, this is going to be time and a half, the time and a half rows. So there it is. Now I can just go edit this, right? This could technically also be from another table if you wanted. I mean, we're using the same table, but you can configure it for it to come from a different location. But as far as tables are concerned, but it's from the same table, and I just have another set of fields. So what I'm going to do is I don't need the name anymore to plot for standard time. I just want, time and a half, and I just want the time and a half record. So I'm going to zap out my regular time, hour fields, and I'm just going to put time and a half in. So time and a half is going to be, it's going to start here. Day 1 starts in C13. So if we look at the template again, right, time and a half is right here, row 13. So let's start C13 and we go D13, E13, F13, G13, H13, I13. Okay. And we'll save that. And my data grid settings. So this is good. It'll start in A13, but it's going to skip 2 and it's going to plot down the page, which is what I want. The query again is the same. I'm going against the same table and record, but again, you could configure it to come from wherever you need it to, and I could throw in sorting if I need it as well. All right, so let's now do, okay, so let's do another one. So we did time and a half, and let's do double time. So this is going to be double time. And now I'm just going to edit this because we need different fields, right? So now I'm going to start in row 14 now, but I don't want the time and a half records. Okay, so now we want double time. So here we go. We're going to start in C14 and go down D14, E14, F14, G14. And I14. Okay. So let me save that. And again, because I copied it, skip rows is 2. That's good. My queries remains the same. I'm still grabbing that same record. So let's go now and run. So what I'm trying to actually show you is the fact that, they are technically 3 different queries, right? So that's what's happening, similar to these different sheets. So we're showing regular time, time and a half, and double time in that spreadsheet. All right, so let's run that. Okay, let's bring that over. So the spreadsheet has all my data now. So it's got my time and a half row in every 2 rows, right, for each employee. And it goes straight down the page. And so this template's pretty much configured and ready to go. Okay, so that's how skip rows work. We've used it in different instances. It can be quite handy, for creating intermittent sections of your spreadsheet, that kind of thing. So let's now take a look at, all right, so now that we created this, we created our spreadsheet of time. I'm going to show you the second option I wanted to show was the same workbook, which is a URL parameter. So
Hey, Todd,
yes.
before we jump into that, Laura has a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Laura.
She's asking, how would you set the fixed number of employees if there were more employees than the space permitted on the template?
So here's the template. You're saying that, so this kind of runs down the page, right? We could,
If you only wanted 10 employees to show up on that page, and
right, and then maybe new tab. That is a good question because of the fact that we're using skip rows now.
So the template doesn't iterate itself because the template is fixed. You've got this design fixed, right?
Exactly. Now, in some other templates, so, you know, where we showed the expense sheet example, for instance, we knew there was a fixed amount of rows, and we said after 10, you have to use what's called max line items option. So if I open up one of these, there is an option called max line items on the grid, right? It says, you know, give me 10, and then after 10, either insert new or more rows or do a new tab. Because we're using skip rows, that's a good, so I don't know how that would behave, and that's a good question. So we can look at that as I can try to test that and see what would happen, where we say, yeah, there's only 10 employees that should be on the sheet. And then after that, do a new tab. So we could test that at the end here and see if it works. But that's, yeah, so I'm not entirely sure how that would behave. It does work without skip rows. It works fine. It was being max line items. You say, yeah, I have 10 line items on this sheet. And when it goes to 11, either give me more rows and expand it. And so what it would do is it would literally push, like in this, I'll say that I'll use this example. If we said insert new rows, it would push the footer down. It would replicate rows. But I think what's going to happen is, because of the way this is structured, this is a group of rows versus being a single row. So in a single row scenario with, like I said, the expense sheet, it'll just do insert new rows and push this footer down, and it'll just go down the page, and it'll look like it was, you know, it was very natural, and it would, like the rows were there already, even though they weren't. But because, again, this sheet, we're dealing with a group, we're dealing with a bunch of rows here, and we're using skip rows, I don't think it'll work the way you're saying. So we kind of had to, you know, expand the sheet.
Right.
And cover as many rows as needed. You know, we do have customers that will have, maybe this will be maybe they'll have this at the top or somewhere else, you know, on another tab, potentially, whatever, and then have these rows go down for 100 or 200 rows, so that they know that they're never going to max out. But in this scenario, that may not work like max row, max new lines. What is it? Let me see. The actual max line items may not work the way it's intended with that kind of a template. All right, but that is a good question. All right, so that was that. So same workbook, actually, I was going over same workbook, and so that's another option. We have it in the help. It is a URL parameter. Okay, so let's see. So let's see, it's a URL. So here we go. So formal URL. So for XL Docs, obviously there are a bunch of different URL parameters that you can utilize. And here in this section is the same workbook parameters. And so this, you'll use this if you want to include, say, all the spreadsheets for various different projects in one workbook. And I'll show you what I mean by that. But the help is here on the topic. And then if we go to, before I run it, the key for same workbook are the formula URL parameters. And so in this section here, which I highlighted, this is where I configured the same workbook options. So same workbook equals yes. The DB ID of where you want the book to get stored. The file attachment field ID to store the workbook in, and the record to store it in. And then you actually can name the tabs, and I'll show you that. So I have a formula here, which is field 248, which will name the actual tabs inside the workbook when we generate it. Okay, now we'll get the only other option that we're going to change in this example is the fact that we want to pull multiple records from a query, because we're going to generate various different project related worksheets or timesheets in one workbook. So we're using at the MS query parameter in XL Docs. So MS query equals 5, and I'll show you where that is. That's an actual, this report here is query ID 5, which just returns projects that I want to include in my workbook. So for each of these projects, create a spreadsheet or a sheet inside a workbook for all the time related, the time entries. So let's see how that works. So I'm just gonna, so again, I configured the formula URL parameters already. So I'm just going to click the button and it will generate the workbook with project by project of all this. So we were just working with this spreadsheet. Obviously I test ABC, but it now is taking all different project related time entries and putting them in one workbook for you, and then storing it on the Quickbase record. And here on the bottom is the tab names, which again you can configure with a formula field. And so I'm just putting the project name and a priority. You know, this is a high priority project, so we might want to scrutinize the time on this one more. And then, you know, so that's how we're naming the tabs with that same workbook option. All right, let me slide this over. And then I actually put it inside this file attachment field. One thing to mention on this is that it has an FAID, which is our standard file attachment identification, but because we're using the same workbook, we're driving the data, the workbook to be stored in with these parameters. So here's the query. Use this query to pull all the project related records and use the same workbook and place it in this table, which is our projects table, in this field on this record, using this field as our tab, the naming convention for the tab. So that's same workbook parameter that I don't think is used that much, but I kind of wanted to highlight it today. This is where we're storing it. So now the third option is another, similar to skip rows. It's another option on the document template called tab sub-report order. And so let me bring up the configurator just to show you. I'll use the record we were on. So tab sub-report order is an option in the data grid settings. Okay, it's specified right here. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to create many different queries, say, from, you know, pulling data from a table or multiple tables and appending them or stacking them on top of each other inside a workbook, inside an Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to demonstrate that with with sort of a use case, I think, which is potentially somewhat handy for people in that, and we've actually had a call for this somewhat recently in a few different instances from customers. They need to generate a CSV, but the CSV, I'm going to pull over an example of what the CSV would look like. So the CSV file, we were given a spec. It says, well, it needs a header. It needs a header row, which should show the total number of timesheets. I'm going to use the timesheet again example. So tell me, as the header row should be total number of timesheets with the number of timesheets, and then I need a column header for all the data that will be contained in this section here. So this will be the actual timesheet related records here, which is variable. So I just kind of listed it. Right, it'll be as many as we pull, and then at the bottom I need a footer. So tell me the total number of timesheet hours. So at the top is total number of timesheet records. The bottom is total number of timesheet hours. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to generate a CSV using XL Docs and obviously the configurator. So let's go to a brand new. We'll create a new configuration, and we're going to call this extract to a CSV. And again, the point, we're going to utilize the tab sub report order option. All right, so let me pull up the configurator, brand new configuration. Just get my notes on this one. So we're going to use okay, I got a few windows open. Let me close a couple windows. Okay. We're going to use the projects table again. And we have extract to a CSV. And in this instance, unlike the other instance where I plotted data randomly inside this sheet, like for header information, project name and location, etc. I'm not going to do that for, I don't need any kind of master related data, so to speak. So I'm going to just save the fact that we're using the projects table and a name for this, right? So now the rest of what I'm going to configure for this output using my tab sub reporter are data tables, okay, that represent each one of these sets of or groups of data, even though some of them are one line. So total sheets, then a header, then all my timesheets, and then my footer. So technically we're going to have 4 queries, if you will, or 4 data table records that will generate what we have here. So we're going to use the tab sub reporter to direct each one of these queries to line up properly inside the spreadsheet. So the first data table is going to be, we're going to select, let's see, from the projects. So I did roll some data up to the project, so that obviously I know summary records as far as number of sheets and total number of hours. So we're going to say for the first data table, the project, we're going to pull it from the projects, put it on sheet 1, even though when we create a CSV, there's really no concept of a sheet, if you will. It's just really it's just going to be one sheet, the main one. So this is the header. So this is that header. This is the header, which will give the total number of timesheet records. Okay, and let me just save that. And then I'm going to find my column that will go on that line. Sometimes we get a little bit, so it is saving, which is indicated, right? Obviously the demo is what I'll do next is I will find my field, which is the total number of timesheets. Okay. So I know that I have it at the bottom of my table. So here's my field I want to put at the top, total number of timesheet recs text. And that's going to be, I'm going to say A1 for that. Okay. Now, so that's my, my field. Since it's the header record, I just wanted one field, and it will be a formula, and I'll show what that will look like. And so as far as data grid settings, again, like I mentioned, we're going to use the tab sub reporter. So we're going to say, yeah, that record that's really the first query that I want to sort of append inside this spreadsheet. So it's going to be the order number 1. So tab sub report order 1, the query. Now I have that value, that field on the project. So really what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sort of relate it back to itself. I'm just going to say where the project is equal to the project. Project ID is equal to the record ID. So I'm just pulling straight from the project. So I'm on the projects table. I'm just pulling that project record. So that should return my first row, and I'm going to just kind of run that quick. So again, we're just going to pull. Here's our query, and we have our sub report order. That's good. Okay, so now let's do this. So this is template 49. So let me come back to where I create so this is the third 49. So I'm just going to put in 49 as my template ID. And I'm going to run that. So let me run this. And so I'm not using the stream to browser option because it's a CSV and it gets, oops, forgot to put my template on that record. So forgot to choose a template, which is going to be blank, by the way. I'm going to put just a blank spreadsheet as my template. And that's it. That's all I need. Let me run it again. Again, it's 49. Let's make sure it's template ID 49. So now if we just run this, all right, it created it. Let's refresh, and it's right here. So let's check it out. Let's check out what this looks like so far. Okay, so here's my template. And like I said, this is my formula field where I concatenated the string total number of timesheets :26, because this is what the vendor wanted as far as me giving them data, right? So that's the first start of this. So that's good. So now let's go back to we have the header, and then the next line is they want a set of column heads, which are pretty static as a second row. So we're going to go, and I'll just copy this, and this is going to be column header, column headers. Okay, and then we're going to edit this, and for the column headers, I have employee, let's see, where is it? Employee header text. Employee header text is right here. Oh, actually, okay. So one other thing I wanted to mention as far as tab sub report order, we already have a first row technically. So we're starting in row 2, so A2. So we're specifying A2 as far as the next row or the next header. So A2 is for the employee head. Then we have project. That's B2. Oops. Let's put B2. And then we have task C2. All right. And then we have dates, the dates that have to go inside. So we're going to say D2. And then this is going to be E2, F2, G2, H2, and I2. Okay, so those are going to be all the columns I need right here. Oh, by the way, so because I copied that record, I want to get rid of the first A1. So these are all the second row. These are going to be all my header, my column head related fields. This is going to be I want this as the second report or inside the spreadsheet in that order. So we save that. And the query again, this is at the project level. So we're just pulling that from the project record. So this is good. All right. And all right, so now let's run a quick test. All right, and let's see what we got. All right, so now we're getting better. So now we have, oops, so now we got our first header, right? And then XL Docs goes, oh, you want the next query, which again is only returning one row right now. You want the next one to start in as right under that tab subreport order 2? Yes. Okay, so here it is. So these are all the static values that are going to go on the next line. Now, after this, right now, so the next query is going to be all the timesheets, which is going to be variable. We're going to go straight. It's going to be subreport order 3, straight down as many as I have. So let's configure that. So we come back to here, and I'm going to do a new subtable. And so now we're going to choose not from the project table, but from the weekly timesheets table, right? It's going to still stay on sheet 1. And this is going to be, these are the actual timesheet entries by employee and task, I think. So, okay, so, all right. And then we just need now to pull from the weekly timesheets the respective fields. So we're going to need name. We're going to need name. And again, we're starting in the third position, right? the third row, because we're in the, we're creating the third query, if you will. So employee name, actually, that's the wrong employee name. I have two. Part of these demo apps, I have 2 employee names. Let me see. I think it's, yeah, it's right here. So this is going to be A3. Employee project name is B3. We need project name. We need task. Oops, let's save that. Reorder this. Task description, C3. And now we need the hours, the records that will actually, the detailed records. So let's go. So it's, this should be D3, E3, F3, G3, H3, I3, J3. Okay, so save that. So now we got our fields. Again, we can go to the top and see all the fields we have selected. So I'm going to do, employee name, the project name, the task name, and then all the hours across, right? And now the only other thing to configure. So again, this is tab subreport 3. All right, this is the third group, if you will, in that should land inside the spreadsheet in an appended format, and then the query. So now the query is, because it's at the weekly timesheet level, we're going to just find the related project because it is a related table, and we just need the related project because the project is the master. Let's just find. So the related project on the weekly timesheet record is equal to the project. And I think that's all we need as far as the query is concerned. So I'll save that. So now let's take a look at what we got here. So now let's run it. And now we should see the third group. Okay, so here's our spreadsheet. And now we have, so now we had our first, obviously, header, then the column name header. Now here are all the records that are in the third group, if you will, that third query, pulling all the timesheets from the weekly timesheet table. All right, so now we need one more footer. So the footer would actually wind up in whatever location row-wise that after the detailed records are actually imported in. So let's just configure that last footer. So I'm just going to copy. I'm going to copy the header record. So this is the footer. And the footer is really going to be also from the projects table because it's a summation summary field. And we're going to grab the grand total hours for the week. So this is going to be A4, and then we get rid of that one because we copied that in. So we save that. The query is already defined, so that's good. So we have pretty much, we got our fourth row. The only thing we have to do is just choose the tab subreport order as 4, and we're good to go on this. And so let's just run that again. All right, and we should have. Okay, so here is our completed spreadsheet. So we got subreport 1, subreport 2, subreport 3, and subreport 4, which is the total hours, which just sums all these here. And the cool thing is we can, the one other thing that is defined on this button was, obviously we have our regular standard URL parameters, but we did want to use the doc format CSV, so that now if we look at the actual file itself, let me grab that. All right, so if we look at it, that's right here. So now you see, so we have a CSV basically ready to go and import into whatever other system that required it in a certain format. Sometimes, like I said, vendors require it, give me a CSV and here's my header and blah, 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 conform to this format. So that's kind of how you can use XL Docs to do that. So this would actually obviously just be able to get imported in where needed. So I think in the interest of time, because I'm running up against 3 o'clock, those are the different options I wanted to show. And we'll have this available also in the help as far as the configurator is concerned. Obviously, all these parameters and And the skip rows is in the help section, same workbook also. That's a URL parameter, right? Skip rows is a document, the template table configuration, as well as the tab sub report order is also a document template configuration.